Hello and welcome back, I'm ShyWizard. Going to do a Farmer Simulator 17 tutorial here for Alfalfa. This is going to be a little bit different to previous ones I've done in 17 for Alfalfa because of the limitations with the mower lure from Giants. Up till now it's not been possible to add other fruit types to the actual mowers so that we can actually then, obviously as it states, mow the crop to give us a windrow that we can then collect and bale. Luckily, and even though we're literally a couple of months away from Farm Sim 19, a script has been created to allow us to then expand on what we can do with our mowers to then give us a windrow that can be used for other purposes. Now I've actually got a couple of links. This is a pack that I've put together. I'm thinking that I'm going to put this in my Dropbox, put a link in the description of the video for you guys to download it. This will only be available for a short period of time. What you do with it once you've downloaded it is entirely up to you. This is based around the AditionalMapTypes lure script. I will not be including any scripts to do with this. You will need to download the actual mod. I'll put a link in the description to that as well, and then incorporate that. I won't include that with the actual, with my setup here. But I've kind of based the actual procedure around the AditionalMapTypes script and whatever else, and set it up in a similar fashion so that anybody who has worked with this will understand what's going on, and potentially it will then work with this setup for any other crops or field types that you want to include in the map. Now I've structured this a little bit differently. Hopefully when I get through the video it will come a little clearer and whatever else. Now I want to start off with a warning. This is something that I've not tested on a multiplayer server. I have not tested it with any kind of modded balers and things like that. I'm using totally in-game equipment, which I've modified to work with Alfalfa, Luzerne, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to refer to it as Alfalfa, even though the actual field type I'm using is Luzerne. But I've changed some translations to give me the in-game text of Alfalfa, so just have to bear with me on that. But if you try to use this on a multiplayer server and it then doesn't work, that's just I can't test it because I don't have a multiplayer server anymore. So what can I do about that? Also, again, like I say, with modded balers and things like that, the Chrome Ultima and all that sort of stuff, I'm not going to start getting into modding other people's equipment and whatever else. That will be on you to contact the author of those particular mods to see if there's anything they can do with that, or just stick with the in-game setup and go from there. So I'm going to put this together and use it, don't use it, entirely up to you, whatever. Like I said, I've put some links in here to different sites that will get you hopefully what you need. The actual script that's required for the crop mowing is within this particular map from American Eagles Modding. You will need to register to download this, but once you actually download this particular map, and I've not played on this map, I played on the previous version, version 7, and the way that it was set up on this particular map, it gave you a grass windrow. So when you actually harvested or mowed Alfalfa, you would just get a standard grass windrow, so then it would bale exactly the same as grass, and it would windrow and pick up and whatever else exactly the same as grass. Now I've modified it slightly so it actually does give me an Alfalfa windrow. For the most part I've not had any issues. Again, like I say, with in-game equipment, it will bale, it will windrow, it will pick up with a forage harvester, and you can also forage wagon, sorry, and you can also use a forage harvester to chaff it. But any modded equipment besides the Giant stuff, you may come into some errors, so that will be on you to test and whatever else, and then go with that. So, and also I've got the link here to the AditionalMapTypes version 1.0.0.9. So yeah, just like I say, it's difficult for me to. I was not sure whether I wanted to put this video together, if I'm absolutely honest with you guys, because there may be some problems with other modded equipment and stuff like that that could cause you some problems. You may get some lure errors, cause your game to crash, I want to be upfront with you guys right from the get-go on this video. This will be entirely on you whether you want to do this or not, but I've been asked by a couple of people to put the video together, so that's what I'm going to do. And then, you know, what happens from there will be really, you know, out of my hands and out of my control. Anyway, enough of that, let's get into this. So I've got a Goldcrest Valley sample mod map here that I'm just going to work with. This has got no additional fruit types, fill types or whatever else on it. So again, you know, like I say, if you're going to be working with oat, rye, millet, all that sort of stuff, you may run into some errors. I've got this on a Manchester edit that I've put together, which has carrot, onion, oats, and various other different things on it, cotton, and I've not run into any problems at all with the equipment that I've got set up and whatever else. Again, like I said, I've not tested this on a multiplayer server, so I can't say if that's going to cause any problems. Yeah, you know, so right, let's just do this anyway and see what happens. Okay, so like I said, I've got Goldcrest Valley edit, nothing else on here at the moment, and I'm going to work with the structure that I've put together here. Again, like I said, I'm going to put this in my Dropbox for you guys to download because it's got all of the appropriate parts. It's got the round bales that I've created for alfalfa, the foliage layers, all of the appropriate fruit HUDs and whatever else. I've also set up some fill planes here, alfalfa material holder and a particle system set up for the actual cutter effects, the map material holders for all of your fill planes and particle systems and whatever else in there, and also some other parts here to do with particles and whatever, and also some textures for distance channels and so on and so on. So the shaders here you probably won't require, but it's needed for the bales because they are what's the word I'm thinking of here, they can be turned into silage bales. So that's something else again I'm going to get into later on, because the way that that works I've had to make a mod for that to work, but it's based around the Giants bale wrapper. So again, you know, if you're working with a modded bale wrapper, it may work, it may not, I can't say for sure. We have some tip on ground stuff here because of the way that windrows work within FS17. You require, they work with the tip on ground functionality, so we need that as well. And I've put some parts together here for the layers that will need to be added into the map 01 and whatever else, and also an example mod desk here to do with some parts here. This is the way that I've set up the additional map type stuff to do with Luzerne. Like I say, the actual fill type or fruit type is Luzerne, but I've used some translation magic within the L10N section here to give me alfalfa. If you change any of these settings in here, you may find that it will break it and then it won't work. I've also added in a food group for the Luzerne windrow, alfalfa, Luzerne, whatever you want to call it, which then allows me to use it as a cow grass and also a sheep grass. Again, you can play around with those settings there and change that to whatever you want, but this one here, if you start messing with stuff there, it might break it and no longer work the way I've set it up, because I don't want to be able to use a harvester, a combine harvester. So the way that windrow works with this particular script is a little bit weird, because of the way that it has to be registered in here, the bale type names and things like that, and whether, you know, it's using standard straw or whatever else. So we have this has straw, standard straw, and then I've changed it to Luzerne windrow because otherwise it would just use standard wheat straw or whatever you want to call it. So yeah, it's a little bit weird how it's got to be set up, but I think if you leave it as I've got it here and just use this information, you should be good to go. So I'm just going to, like I say, get into this eventually in a minute or two, and then hopefully we'll get it all up together in the map and whatever. So simply what again, like I've done here, is I've set it up around the additional map types structure. So if you're working with that script, this should be really straightforward. So what we need to do then is literally just copy all of the parts, these parts here. These are just information stuff that need to be added into your map mod desk and whatever else. So if you just take all of these parts here Bale types, foliage, fruit HUDs, maps, shaders, and tip on ground. Because I'm working with a Goldcrest Valley edit here, the structure of the folders is going to match perfectly. If you're working with a different map, different modded map, the structure of the folders may be slightly different, so you may need to take that into consideration. I can't set this up in a way that it's going to work with every single modded map out there, but if it's based around the Goldcrest Valley structure, map structure, folder structure, again, you should be good to go. So all I'm going to do here is literally highlight all of those folders, Control C to copy them, come into my Goldcrest Valley sample map here, Control V, and I'm going to merge all of the folders like so, straightforward. Nothing else there needs to be replaced, added in, whatever else. Because of the folder structure, it's going to put everything exactly where I want it to be. Okay, so then what I'm going to do is, I think we'll work with the actual layers and actually get all of this set up in the map, so I can go into Giants Editor and show you that it does actually paint down and work in that fashion, the same way as I would add in oat, rye, millet, and all the rest of it. So if I open this one up in Notepad++, you can see I've structured this. I've actually given the file IDs really big numbers, so you should be able to just literally copy this straight over into your map 01, map 02, whatever you want, whatever that might be called. Again, that might be called something completely different to what I'm going to be working with here, depending on how the author of that particular mod map has set it up. Again, that's something you'll need to work with, and whatever else. Now, if you are working with chopped straw or a certain number of additional fruit types, then you may need to change your density. If we go into the map 01 here, you've got your fruit density GDM. You may need to convert that using the GRLE converter here, and then change some channels and whatever else. I've done a video on this, which I may link at the end to show you all of that if you're not sure about it, but you may need to up the actual density channels to allow all of the additional fruit types to be accepted. Not going to get too deep into that because, like I said, I've already done a video on all that sort of stuff. So this is just primarily about getting the alfalfa into the map and then setting it up so it can be mowed and whatever else. So if I go into the Goldcrest Valley sample map here, I can open up the map 01 in Notepad++. If this makes it a little easier, you can always change the language over to XML so it all sort of looks the same color. If it gets a bit confusing, if it's all just in black and white, this may help you. So what I'm going to do here then is I'm going to take the file IDs and copy all of the lines. This is pointing to the actual foliage itself and all of the distance channels, the distance textures, and I'm literally just going to go Control C, come over into my map 01, make a new line and paste them in like so. And I've set these numbers up, like I say, really big numbers, so they shouldn't interfere with any file IDs you've already got in your map 01. The next part, and again, like I said, I've based this around the AditionalMapTypes structure. So the next part is to search for material of foliage wheat. So if we take that and make a copy of it, what we're looking for here is our custom shader ID. So if we go back over into here, I'm going to go Control F, paste that in, find next, and the custom shader ID on this particular map is 49. So I'm going to take that number from there, come back over into my instruction set. If we then come down to our materials section, it does say all of this stuff down here. Write down the number of your custom shader that you've just taken from your map 01. Note that number and then just change the actual text here within your material section. So for our custom shader ID for the foliage Luzerne, I need to change this text here to 49, like so. And then what I can do is just literally copy all of that information. Nothing needs to be changed there other than the custom shader ID. So I'm going to again highlight all of that, Control C to copy it. I'm going to come back over into here, and I need to search for the materials section, the bottom of the materials section. So as it says here in note 4, search for materials and paste it above. So if I make a copy of that there like so, first of all, come back over, Control F, paste that in, find next, and we come to the bottom of our materials section. Then I can make a copy of all of this information with Control C, come back into the map01, paste it in. So that's that section done. So then we're going to search for our foliage layer. So if we make a copy of that information, come back over, Control F, paste that into there like so, find next, and we come to the bottom of our foliage layer section here. So I'm going to make a new line, come back over and then take the information from here. Now again, if you're using Chop Straw mod, or if you've got additional crops in the map, you may need to up your density channels like I just said earlier on. So I haven't got any additional ones, so I'm just going to work with the standard ones. But if you do, then you would need to take this information from here. Again, a reason why I'm not including all of the scripts and everything, because I think it's very important that you have access to all of the PDA information within the additional map type script setup, because it will explain how to increase your channels with the PDF information here. So I think it's important that you have access to this, and I'm not comfortable with giving you that in my download link. You need to find that from the link that I'll provide to that particular site. Yeah, work with that PDF, get all the information from there to increase your density channels and all the rest of it if you need to. Again, if you're working with chop straw or additional crop types and whatever else. Because I believe the actual density channel that comes standard with the Goldcrest Valley map, it will only allow a maximum of 2 additional crop types, and this obviously includes things like chop straw. They will give issues if you don't increase your channels on that side of thing, because it works with tip on ground and windrows and things like that. So I'm just going to work with this one here because I've not got any additional crop types and I'm not using chop straw on this particular map. So I'm going to take all of this information. Again, I've set all this up so that it can just literally be copied over. The block shape ID may be slightly different on your map. Again, that's something you'll need to work with, depending on that, how that's been set up. But again, I can't set this up in a way that it's going to be straightforward for every single map and mod map that's out there. So I'm just going to be working with what I've got. So I'm going to make a copy of that particular line, come back over to my map01 and paste that into there, and then I will just tidy this up a little bit so it all lines up. Okay, so because I've taken this from a map that I've been working with, the Manchester edit that I'm doing, my channel, the density map it type index that I've set this at on the Manchester edit is 18. So I would recommend that you change it to follow on numerically from the last one that you've got on your particular map that you're working with, which in my case is 13. So I'm going to change my density map type index to 14 to carry on numerically from there. Fantastic. So that should be all set up in there as I need it. So I can go ahead and save that. So I don't need the instructions page here anymore. So I'm going to close that down. I don't want to save it because you guys may have different custom shader IDs and things like that than what I'm working with. So just trying to, again, make it as simple as possible. So you just be able to copy some stuff over, copy lines of text, put it into your map, and then theoretically it will all work, hopefully. So I'm going to open up the map here in Giants Editor, and if all of that's gone according to plan, in my terrain editing window I should be able to then come into here, and before we get to that, it's always worth just checking in your console that you've got no errors. I have none, so it's found all of the parts that I've added in, and that's fantastic. So if I come down to here, and I'm going to go to my foliage layer, if I come in here, I've now got Luzerne, aka Alfalfa, listed in that foliage layer. Fantastic. So I'm just going to find a space to work with here. I'm going to change my foliage channels, the actual growth channels here, to 6, and we'll just paint down our alfalfa. Fantastic. There we go. So for those that aren't sure, under standard density map channels, 4 is seeded, so you won't actually see anything on the map itself. Then we have 5, which is just partially grown, and then 6, and then 5 and 6, and then 4, 5 and 6 for fully grown. And if you actually then do 7, which is withered, and 4 and 7 is cut short. Okay, not going to again again, not going to get into that too deeply because I've covered all of this stuff before, and all of it is painting down on the map. Fantastic, lovely jubbly. So we've got all of what we want there. So what I would do is close down the map now that I know that it all works, and then reopen it again. If you find that something doesn't work the way that you intended it to, it doesn't look right, the texture doesn't look right, again coming back to the block shape ID, you may find that it's not correct for your particular map. So if the texture looks all weird and freaky, then you can close down the map now before saving it, and it makes it much easier to go back into your map01 within the Notepad++, make adjustments, because everything will be exactly where you just pasted it into. And then once you're comfortable, you can come into the map, click save, and it will then update the i3D, renumber and restructure everything accordingly. If you click save before you've fixed everything, it will make it slightly more difficult to find what you've just put into the map01, because it will restructure it. So now that we've got that into there, and I'm comfortable that everything is painting down the way it's meant to be, that's fantastic. So the next thing then, what we're going to do is work with, let's see, what can we work with next? I think what I'm going to do is set up the actual mod desk for the map itself. If we open this up, you can see this is literally a Goldcrest Valley sample mod map. So for me, I would have obviously put in my name here, like so, and then set up all the appropriate parts. So if I come down to here, I'm going to make some spaces, I'm going to open up the example here for Alfalfa, and because I haven't got much in here, it's pretty straightforward. So I'm just going to copy over the L10N section. If you obviously already have this in your map, you won't need the tags, just the information in between. And then I can copy over my extra source files, which is the AditionalMapTypes Lua script that I'm going to be working with here, as I've already mentioned. So I'm going to paste that into there. And then all of the actual parts to do with this script that tell it what fruit type we're going to be registering, and what we're actually going to be doing with that particular fruit type, and all of the directories which we've already copied over into the map. So we've got our Bale types, our fruit HUDs, and all the appropriate parts there, and our tip on ground stuff and whatever else. So I'm going to make a copy of that, all of that text, again including the tags. Now again, if you have any additional crops on your map already, field types, fruit types, you may not require the actual tags, but if you've set up the HUDs in a different folder, you may need to work with all of those parts. But if you've kept it structured the way that the default additional map type structure is set up, you should be good to go again in that sense. Okay, so we've got no extra parts in there, so I can go ahead and close down that one. I'm going to change this one slightly, because again, this is literally a sample mod map that I've just created for the video tutorial, so they don't include that correct path file name for some reason when they do it, so you have to add that in, otherwise it won't give you the correct PNG and you'll get errors. Okay, so we've now added all of those parts into the mod desk, so I can go ahead and save and close that down. Like I said earlier on, I've tried to make this as simple as possible, giving you all the information available to make this literally a drag and drop situation for the most part. Okay, so next thing that I'm going to work with then is the map XML entries. This is our map01 for all of our additional files that are going to be pointing to fill planes, particle systems, cutter effects, and so on and so on. Now the way that I've structured these, I've tried to set them up in a fashion that, again, this will be a straightforward copy and paste situation, where if you've already got additional map type stuff in the map that you're working with, I've named these that they will just be additions to whatever you've got already. So it should again be a straightforward copy and paste scenario. If you're working with a blank map that's got nothing on it, you will start with all of this information at the top here and end up with what I've got at the bottom here, just by adding in these extra lines. Now obviously if you're working with extra crop types that you've added in already, then you would literally just add these to the bottom of that section. So I'm going to copy those, come back over into my map01 XML, create a new line, and paste those into there like so. Pretty straightforward, like I say, or at least I hope so. So now that I've set all of that up, I can close that one down and this one also. So now theoretically then we've got all of our parts set up into here for the map itself. Okay, so now that I've included all the parts to set the map up with Alfalfa and all the rest of it, lastly I need to bring over the AditionalMapTypes lure and then put that into the appropriate place, which is set up in the extra source files in the mod desk. So now that I have that into there, I can close that one down. We don't need anything else, I hope. Again, like I said earlier on, there are some parts in here that I would probably say is best to be left alone. I've actually set this up so it has a round bale only. If you wanted to create a square bale, then have at it and see what you can come up with. I tried to make a square bale, but I just couldn't get the textures quite right the way I wanted them to, so I decided round bale was probably good enough. I may look into that in the future, but hopefully what I've put together for the round bale is adequate at least. Yeah, I don't think there's much more really there I need to go into. I will just show you with all of the testing that I actually did. I'm going to put this into my mods folder here while I'm going through this stuff, and that will lead me on to the next part. The way that the belt system works within FS17, it uses a fill type category of bulk, and unfortunately the way that the actual windrow is registered using the AditionalMapTypes lure script, and all the way that that's set up and whatever else, and how to set the bales up and all the rest of it, there's no way of actually, at least not that I've been able to find, there's no way of actually setting up a category of bulk for the Luzerne windrow, and that's the way that the actual belts work. They are looking for a fill type category of bulk, and all the other parts that I tested, the wheel loader shovels, the baler, the forage harvester, forage wagon, various other different pieces of equipment, they all would accept Luzerne windrow. There's one caveat to that: the actual tip trailers will also not accept Luzerne windrow, again because they have a fill type category of bulk. There's no way of actually setting that up within the actual parameters of the mod desk. It's possible that there may be a way of doing that within the actual XML for the tipper trailer itself. I've not experimented with it because I'm quite happy to use a forage wagon as my way of getting and collecting the actual Luzerne windrow, so I'm okay with that. But when it comes to the belt system and the wrapper, they will not work as standard, so I've actually had to make my own modded versions, which will then work with Luzerne windrow only. They will not work with any other fill type. So if you, the way I've kind of structured this, I've set it up in a way that there will be equipment specific to Alfalfa and Luzerne windrow, whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to include all of these, so that you will be able to use them. Again, if you want to try and set something up differently, that's on you guys to experiment with that. But at least what I've tried to put together here will give you options that you can then work with and whatever. So I think the next thing best would be to get into game and obviously test all of the functionality of it, make sure that we can actually mow it. When you download the actual map, the Bates County USA map, there will be a unzip that you'll need to carry out, which will then reveal this CropMowing.zip. Just literally make a copy of it, put it into your mod folder or move it to your mod folder, and that will then allow you to work with the mowers. That will expand the functionality of the mowing lure to then work with any type of crop on the map that has a windrow. So with this particular script, you'll be able to mow wheat, barley, and various other different crops, that any crop that has a windrow, and then pick it up with a forage harvester, bale it, whatever else, similar to the multi-mower script that we had in FarmSim 15. Okay, so I think, yeah, I'm going to get into game and we'll test this out and see what happens. Okay, so I've just seeded this field simply because it's nice and close to the shop here, and I can just buy my equipment as I need it and not too far to go. So you can see there, alfalfa 71% ready to go, ready to cut. So I'm not going to be too fussed about getting it around to 100%, but there it is. It's all grown up in the field and whatever else. So the the seeding of it works perfectly fine. It's gone through all the stages. Just have to take my word for that. But so I'm going to come over to the store here. I'm going to buy some mowers, but I want to show you I've set up a new category here, store category, alfalfa equipment, and I have the belt system within there and also the wrapper itself. This will work with the standard bales as well. The other stuff will not work with any other crop type or fruit type or field type than the alfalfa, but the actual wrapper will work with other stuff. You could also include other field types with the bale, with the actual belt system, but I quite like the idea of having stuff that's specific to a certain field type. That's just my play style. Like I said, I will include all of this stuff in the download, but you know, you can use it, don't use it, and edit it and do whatever else you choose to do. But I just want to show you that we will be working with these parts throughout the video here, just to show that they do work and whatever else. And if you use the standard belt system, these do not, even though it shows alfalfa there as a fill type, it's the actual alfalfa, not the windrow. So because we're not going to actually get a fill type of alfalfa, then it's not recognized. The windrow just doesn't work with these particular belt systems because there's no way of registering the actual windrow as a bulk fill type category, at least not that I've found so far. So yeah, you won't be able to use these, but these ones will work perfectly fine. So and like I say, tippers, again, it will show you a fill type of alfalfa or Luzerne, but not the actual windrow. So these won't work with any of that either. So at least not to the way, not to my understanding at the moment. This may change. I'm still messing about with this sort of stuff, but was asked to put a video together, so this is what I'm kind of got. This is the stage that I've got to at the moment, at least. But everything else there, you know, you've got your field type here for your different seeders, so you can actually clearly seed the actual alfalfa to get it into the ground and whatever else. And then we have our different headers for the forage harvester, so it will actually forage the alfalfa into chaff. So there's that as well. So I think what I'll do, if we go into balers here, you can see we've got the alfalfa windrow symbol HUD, so that will work perfectly fine there. It may show it on other balers, but if you use these, I think it will give you a hay bale, because I've not set up a square bale for the alfalfa. So, you know, again, you know, that's something you'll just have to play around with if you choose to go down that road. They do work with the auto loading trailers and everything else. Again, with the levelers, it shows the alfalfa windrow, so that's all good. That works as well. So mowers, I think what I'll do is I'll buy the standard in-game stuff to start with. Excuse me, got a bit of a dry throat. And then I might just buy the actual Chrome Big M as well, just to show you that it does work with all of those as well. So if I get into the Ultra here, turn my speakers down because it causes feedback, and what I'll do is I'll just dump off the weight, and I'll just show you this. So let's do that. I mean, I've already put a video up of me using the Big M doing this in a time-lapse situation, so but I just want to show you that it does all work with whatever mowers you choose to go with. I can't speak for all modded equipment. Again, like I said earlier on, there may be some issues with certain modded pieces of equipment, but that's out of my control. So but if we just go into here, you can see it is actually, oh, I didn't lower the front one. Let's go back and lower the front one. There we go, right, do it again, there we go. So it is all working. This is clearly obviously in-game stuff. So there is that, it does do that. I'll do a row because I want to show that it works with the windrow as well. It doesn't work with the tedder and it doesn't work with the weeder that I've managed to get it to work so far. So you can't run the weeder across this, irregardless of what growth stage it's at, it won't work. And the tedder won't work either, so you can't turn this into alfalfa hay or whatever else you want to call it. Again, I would suggest that that's a game limitation. It may be something that I'm not doing correctly. But I'm still playing around with this to see if I can get this to work any differently than what I've got it so far. So there may be changes, but chances are FS17 will be out before I get to that. So, you know, this is probably what you're going to end up with. Can't do much about that. So let me get another tractor here. Let's get the fence, that'll be fine. And a windrow. The other thing I want to mention, the merger, it does work with the merger, but the textures are all messed up. Because this is a DLC, I cannot get access to this to figure out why that is, but it will work with it, but it just gives you really messed up textures. So yeah, just have to, you know, again, can't do much about that. So let me get into this one and hook up the windrow. And I'll show you that it does actually work with this as well. I've tried to set up the particle systems best I can, so it does give some particles when you're actually windrowing. It's not just, you know, magically drawing the grass into the middle. It does actually show you that show particle systems of a type, so that you can see it all being moved into the middle and whatever else. So let's do that. I'll try and show you that best I can. As you can see there are grass particles or whatever being forced into the middle there. So, you know, hopefully you could see that. And it does windrow, you know, it does actually draw it into a nice windrow there, so that's all good. Now obviously if you're using the Chrome Big M, it automatically creates a windrow for you unless you disable that function, so this may not be necessary, but I wanted to try and get at least certain parts working, you know, bare minimum stuff, so you can actually windrow this and whatever else. You just can't TED it, so, you know, there's again either limitations of myself or limitations of the game, limitations of the script, I don't know yet, but I think, you know, for what I've set up here, bare minimum, we have enough functionality that should suffice. So I'm going to, I think what I'll do for this particular row, just to show you that it does, trying to show you all the functionalities that I've set up here, again to my limitations, my knowledge and whatever else. If I buy a round baler, and we'll hook this one up just to give you as much of a demonstration in the tutorial here of all the different parts. So we come around to here. Now I'm not a big fan of round bales because of the way that you have to keep stopping and pausing to unload the baler and whatever else, but you know, it's part and parcel of the game, so just, you know, go with it. So as you can see, we are getting alfalfa into the actual baler here, and if I then stop and unload this one, I won't do the entire row, I'll just do a couple and then we continue on. I just want to show you the bales, and then I'll just take them off the field. Might cheat a little bit, but I'll just pick them up. So we'll just do a couple, that's fine. So if I turn that one off, we'll just get this out of the way. Like so. As you can see, this is what I've set up here. It does show there Alfalfa, 0.4 ton, 4,000 litres. Tried to get the texture best I could here, so it kind of has the flower heads and whatever else in the bale. I don't think I did too bad a job. You know, you may agree or disagree on that. So I'm just going to move these over to the side here, like so. The way that I've set this up with the mod desk and the additional map types script capabilities, I've set it up so that it can actually be used as, and I'll show you all of this stuff in here. You can see we have the alfalfa shown in the fruit HUDs here, and whatever else in its growth state all works perfectly fine, and all that's good to go. I'm pretty sure, yeah, it does actually give you a display in the prices table. You would need to set up your sell points accordingly to accept the alfalfa windrow and whatever, but you know, you can choose whatever one. Probably the barn, I think I usually set it up under that, because that's where all the other windrows go, your straw, your grass and your hay. So just go into the actual map 01 and change that and add that, and also in your trigger for your map and whatever where required. So if we come round to the actual animals here, you can see under the sheep we've got alfalfa, grass and hay, so it will take any one of those. And also under the cows I've set it up so it's a substitute for grass under alfalfa there. So that's fine, and I will show you that in a little bit, where we can actually also use the bales as well as loose material. So these will go into the trigger and be accepted. So that's good, because you know, you can bale up your alfalfa and then use that in to feed your cows and whatever else. So I think again, just to show you all the different functionalities, if we get a loading wagon, it does actually show you here your alfalfa windrow. So we'll just go with this one. That's fine. So if I come over and collect that, I probably won't use the big M actually, because like I said, I've already shown you that in the time-lapse video. It does work perfectly fine. I want to show you as much as I can, but not, you know, make the video too long if I can help it. So we'll just lower that, turn it on, and we have our alfalfa going into our windrow, and it shows up with the custom texture and whatever else in there. So that's good. So I'm going to collect this entire row here. So I just want to show you the next functions here to do with the actual belt system and whatever else. So again, because this is a windrow, it's automatically set up as a tip on ground, because that's the way the windrows work within 17. They use that function to work, so it just gives it a tip on ground automatically, irregardless of what you set it up. Now, because this is registered as Luzerne as a fruit type, and this is a windrow, I've set the Luzerne or the alfalfa as create heap false, because that would cause errors with textures and stuff like that, which aren't required in this particular case, because the only thing I want to do with this alfalfa is just mow it or chaff it. I don't want to do anything else. It's not a crop that I'm going to be collecting any other way. So if I use the tip on ground function here and create my heap, as I've said in the past, I'm not a massive fan of the tip on ground functionality. I hope that they have made some adjustments to this within FS17, but you know, that's by the by. So what I'll do then is, let me see what tractors I've got here. I think what I'll do is I'll just dump these off. Can't remember how these actually, I think you might have to unfold it before you can detach it, I'm not sure. No, it might not be this one. I know one of them, yeah, that's fine. One of them, I think it might be the small one. You have to unfold it before it will actually detach, but these ones you can detach like that. That's good. Shows how much I use these this stuff. I generally go with the big M if I'm honest, unless it's a map that it literally just won't fit on. So run that man over there, that's fine. What was I going to do? Oh yeah, if we go into here, these particular modded belt systems that I've put together, so if I just get those, don't really care about the colour, I'll just show you all of the functionality of these ones, that they will work with the Alfalfa. So now the trigger on this particular small belt here, the one that actually picks up from the ground, I've increased it considerably because the way that the you can see it's already starting to collect it. The way that they've set it up as standard is it's actually quite small. The shovel trigger at the end of it is really small, so I've increased it slightly just to give it a better chance of actually picking up the these aren't very good, I must admit. Anyway, yeah, I've given it a bit of a slightly larger trigger so it's got a better chance of picking up from the heap without you having to constantly move it every 2 seconds. Again, there's the texture. I don't think it looks too bad. It's not, you know, fantastic or anything, but it's you know, it's acceptable in my opinion. So we'll go and grab the other one. I want to put all of these belts together just to show you that they do all work, all three of them. So if I grab this one, I'll bring this one over. You just need 4-wheel drive or something. Let's see if we can get this in fairly decent position. There we go. So as you can see, that one is also doing whatever it needs to do, so we'll just raise that. I'm not going to worry about extending it too much or whatever else, but you can see the actual belt system is now working. So if you wanted to have, you know, several different belts all running around picking up the heap or whatever, you can do with this modded setup I've put together here. I don't generally mess about with the belts too much, but they do have their place, so you know, for those of you that are really into using the conveyor belts, then this might help you out a little bit. So let's get this one all set up. Something like that, and then I'll raise this one up. There we go. Let's get that somewhere like that. I think will be fine, and then we'll just make the do like so I can get my thingy under there. Okay, awesome. So if I come back round now again then and jump into the tractor, we'll connect up the I didn't need to, it's got a tractor of its own. I'm going to go across the crop, sorry about that. So if we come on round here then and get under the end of the belt, you'll see that it does actually unload into the back into the forage harvester, like so. There we go. So belt system all working. You know, it's doing what it needs to do best it can. It's got all the correct textures on it. I've tried my best to set it up that way, so you know, yeah, all working there nicely. Excellent. Okay, so the next thing then, I think what I will do is Let's get a forage harvester, not that one, this one. Let's go with this one. I like this one, so let's go with that one. And header. Okay. Now, because this is going to give me chaff, hopefully, it will work with any kind of setup that in-game or otherwise that will work with chaff, no problem. Shouldn't have any issues there at all. One thing I have found, for whatever reason, with the Alfalfa, it will not work with hired worker. It tries to, and then it fails. It just comes up, helper A, helper B, whatever has completed their task, or whatever it says. I've tried my best to figure out why that is not, why it won't work, but for whatever reason, hired worker, if I do hired worker, it's just going to work now, isn't it? Typical. For some reason, it's really weird with hired worker. I get a lot of problems. It might get to the middle of the field and then suddenly stop working, so really strange. But Alfalfa, this particular crop type seems to be the most problematic in the way that it works. It will sometimes work, sometimes it won't work, and then other times, like I say, it'll get to the middle of the field and then just say, no, I'm not going to do anything anymore. But you can clearly see in the top left there in glance, it's showing hired, so you know that's good. We'll go with that and see what happens. It may be because I'm chaffing it, it's not requesting or requiring any additional scripting, other than the, obviously the implementation of the crop itself using the additional map types. But you can see there we are getting chaff from our Alfalfa, so that is working, and for once hired work is doing what I want it to do, so that's nice also. Okay, so I'm not going to spend massive amount of time doing that. I just want to show you it does work, so we'll just stop that and I'll just deactivate that. It does work, so let's turn him off, or her, and yeah, so we have that. So I think what I'll do then is lastly, and I've only got a really big trailer I think for the auto load, but that's fine. So I just want to show you this briefly. That's fine, don't really care about the colour again. Excuse me. So if I come into here then, I'll just show you this. There we go. Pretty standard setup. So round bales 1.3 metre. If we come over X and they load, so that is also working. They will work with the auto load trailers, no problem. As you can see, the bales are on there, and they are the Luzerne Alfalfa windrow bales, so that's good. I'm just going to go over quickly to the cow area. I just want to show you that they will actually be accepted within here, no problem. So if we come around to here, I think what I'll do is I'll just empty them out onto the ground. There, that'll do. So if we do that, and then I'll just grab one of these, and there we go. Put that into there. So they do work. The loose stuff, the loose Alfalfa windrow does work as well. If I go back into here, you can see Alfalfa / grass is now being filled up in our cows. That will work exactly the same for the sheep, so again should be good to go there. And because I made this really big, the shovel trigger there, I've not had to move that conveyor belt at all, and it's moved that entire heap for me, no problem. So that's should work perfectly fine, I hope, for you guys. I've tried my utmost to put everything together in a really simple fashion, easy to work with. Most of it is just copy and paste with a few additional parts that you will need to look up for yourself, custom shader IDs, things like that. I've included as many different mods that I can that will, you know, make things as easy as possible. I think what I will do also, just really hopefully quickly at the end here, I just want to also demonstrate that if I go and get my mower again, and create a couple of bales here, that the bale wrapper will actually work perfectly fine. The modded version that I've put together here to then create a silage bale from the Alfalfa windrows. So if I just do a quick line here. One thing I would say to be careful with when you're mowing, obviously if you have grass around the edge of the field, just be careful to try and not get too much within the actual windrow that you're creating. So just be a little bit careful when you're actually doing this. Make sure you get up to the actual alfalfa before you turn on all of the mowers and whatever else, because if you include the grass with it, it may cause some problems when you're picking it up or baling it, because it will see two different fill types and possibly get a little bit confused. You shouldn't have too many issues, but there may be some that can cause some problems, so just be a little bit careful with that. But otherwise I think, you know, it's just like everything else in Farm Sim. You just have to go with what we've got and, you know, work with it. So like I said, I'm just going to do a very quick section there. So if I do that and whatever, so just put this over to the side here, and I'll grab the other tractor, hook that up to the baler. What did I do with my windrow? I'll just windrow this quickly, just so I've got a bit of an easier chance of picking up a good quantity of it. So we'll just fire this thing up here again and windrow this again, just showing you that, you know, all of the parts are working there as best I can get them to work. That should be fine. Don't need to get too much, just want to get enough that I can get a bale or two and show you the bale wrapper in operation. Okay, so let's come on round then and do this. So let's do that. I think we should get maybe a couple, maybe one is all I need, but maybe a couple would be nice. Don't roll away. There we go. Okay, excellent, we've got a couple, that's nice. So if I just come on round here again, then I'll just put this one somewhere by the side of this one. Like so. And we'll go over and get the bale wrapper. Now if you take one of the in-game ones, when you actually go to pick up the actual bale itself, it will just say bale type not accepted. So that's why I put this one together. So if I buy that one, One thing that I have not, well, many things actually I've not tested so far, but one of the main key things I've not tested so far is how all of this works with seasons mod. So those guys, those of you who actually work with seasons, you know, play the game with seasons, whatever else. There we go, picks it up and wraps it, does whatever, and then gives us a silage bale. So that is working as best as I can get it working. Yeah, like I was saying, seasons, I don't know how this will be affected with seasons. You know, where seasons will get rid of windrows and things like that. I would imagine it's not specific to a particular crop type or field type or whatever else. It just looks at windrows in general, and then potentially will work in the same fashion as any other windrow would, where it will disappear over a certain period of time. When it comes to bales, again, I cannot say whether the bale will lose some of its capacity over a period of time if left outside. All of these things are still being played around with and tested by myself, so you know, time is not on my side at the moment, so I've not been able to test every functionality of this particular setup, and yeah, all the rest of it, and again, you know, limitations of different things. So if you do run across problems with seasons, again, you know, not much I can do about that. So okay, so if we come over, then there we go, silage bale. So we took our alfalfa bale and we wrapped it and created a silage bale. Fantastic. I don't think there's really much more that I can go into in this particular video tutorial. I've put everything together as best I can. So hopefully what I've done is, you know, going to work for you guys. Like I say, I'm ShyWizard. Thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you on the next one.